Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing week 32 of my 2022 reads. This week I read some books by some favorite authors that did not disappoint, and I made some progress on my new release-a-thon TBR, although I did DNF one book. Content warnings and timestamps are in the description box below. First, I finished What's Inside a Flower by Rachel Ignotofsky. I read this out loud to my husband Sush, and this was such a sweet picture book to read. Rachel Ignotofsky does a whole series of non-fiction illustrated books. Most of them are more middle grade, but this one was more of a younger children's picture book, but it is exploring the science of flowers, from seed to stem to the blooming flowers. It looks also at a lot of what's going on in the ground and like what minerals and water and everything that plants need to grow. So it's kind of that life cycle of a flower. I absolutely loved this. It was so sweet. The illustrations are fantastic as always. I love the way that Rachel Ignotofsky draws, and I love the colors that she uses and the way that she kind of shows all of these different plants with her illustrations and all of the different sciencey bits. It was excellent. Really, definitely enjoy all of her work. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Then all of the other books that I read are 2022 releases this week, starting with Jennifer Chan is Not Alone by Keller. This is a contemporary middle grade that has some very slight sci-fi elements that I ended up absolutely loving. I'm gonna have a standalone review out later this week, so definitely check that out if you're at all interested in middle grade. This was so fantastic, but it is a little heavy. This deals really heavily with the topic of bullying, but it does it so well. The basic premise of the book is that we follow Mallory, and she is a middle school kid who really wants to fit in, and she has a group of friends who are cool girls, and she just wants to be liked, doesn't really want to stand out at all. But there is a new girl, Jennifer Chan, who stands out quite a bit, believes in aliens, and then one day she goes missing. And Mallory feels compelled to kind of find out what happened to her and follow these clues. So this is all about that kind of journey to finding Jennifer Chan, and it is incredibly moving, deals with some really great topics in a very age-appropriate way. I thought it was really stunning. I loved this book, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Unmatchmakers by Jackie Lau. This is a Kobo original novella, a contemporary romance, and I actually got this as a giveaway copy because I'm subscribed to Jackie Lau's newsletter, and she did a giveaway and I won one, so that was awesome. Especially because I hadn't used the Kobo app before and I wasn't sure if I was gonna go ahead and install that and just so that I could buy this book. But since I got it in the giveaway, I installed the app and read it, and it was a fun little novella. So this is basically, takes place at a lakeside in Canada, and there is a group of families where the moms are all friends with each other, and they have been for years and years, and they have this week-long vacation in the summer and have their adult children come and stay there as well. And the heroine in this ends up kind of falling for the sons of one of the other mothers, and they really hit it off. But their moms are super anti-relationship. They're the unmatchmakers. They don't want their kids to really date anybody because they've had such bad experiences of their own. And so it's just a lot of antics of the moms trying to stop them for falling for each other and the two leads just falling for each other anyway. So this book is filled with a lot of great summer vibes. If you're looking for a very summer kind of lakeside feel of a book, this is great for that. It does have a little bit much drama in terms of the moms, and especially in terms of kind of slightly toxic relationships with the kids and their moms. The moms are very overbearing in a lot of ways, but that's as much part of the story as the romance is. Jackie Lau does a lot with family dynamics in her books, and so I thought that it was a little over the top, a little dramatic at times, but even so, it was dealing with some really interesting topics, so I really did enjoy this, and overall I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read FIYAH magazine, issue number 21. This is a Black speculative fiction magazine that I really enjoy reading. This issue had kind of a mixed bag for me. A lot of the stories didn't quite work for me, but I did really love the first story, which was From Earth to Io with Love by Adelaide Ijasan, and this had some really kind of creepy, almost Black Mirror vibes of exploring, you know, what corporations will do with new technology that people don't really understand how it works, even though they use it, and it explored it in kind of like a really impactful way. I liked that a lot. There was also an essay in this that I really enjoyed, which was When Black Boys Find Magic by Ladarian Williams, and that's just all about, you know, how important it is for Black boys to see themselves in these joyful, magic-filled stories. And I love reading nonfiction about genre fiction, so that was a great essay as well. So even though not quite everything in this collection worked for me, I did really enjoy those two, and overall I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. And lastly, I did DNF one book, which was A Caribbean Heiress in Paris by Adriana Herrera. And this is a historical romance that I was super looking forward to because my friend Cynthia at BookWhimsy, who I'll link below, did an excellent review for this. So I'll link that review as well below. And it just, there's so much about this book that is exactly what I'm interested in. This takes place in 1889 in Paris during the World's Fair, and we follow a Caribbean heiress for a kind of rum distillery who's going there to sell her wares and kind of like spread knowledge of her brand and all these sorts of things. And she meets an earl there, a Scottish earl, who has a whiskey distillery, and they end up forming a marriage of convenience because they both basically need to get married to fulfill some terms of wills so that they can gain control of their own fortunes and companies. And so there's so much about that that really worked for me. The kind of the way that Herrera imagines Paris, the way that she shows how the World's Fair was a World's Fair and there's people from all over the world there. You know, a lot of historical romances tend to be really whitewashed, and so I think this shows like the actual diversity of the world, right, of the time. And so I loved that. And there's all of this discussion about colonialism and about classism and about exploitation of workers and about slavery and about racism. So there's excellent themes in here. And I thought also that the plot was really interesting, kind of what both of these characters are trying to accomplish. I was quite interested in that. But the romance itself didn't really work for me. So I got to 75% of this, and I was really truly enjoying so much of it, but I just didn't like the dynamic of the two main characters. And for romance, that's a deal breaker for me. If I'm not on board with the romance, I'm not getting what I want out of the romance itself. And I think that this is kind of like a style thing, right? I think in romance, people have tropes that they like and tropes that they don't like, and sort of interactions. And I think for me, I just didn't like the style that the two main characters interacted with. They had this kind of argumentative type of flirtation where there was a lot of insults exchanged almost, especially from the heroine. She would often insult the hero, things like, oh, you're insufferable, that sort of thing. And like that's seen as playful in there, and I'm not on board with insults as play. And the hero also is somebody who is very sweet and gentle to the heroine, but kind of aggressive and machismo otherwise, like threatening people if they disrespect her, that sort of thing. And I just was not on board for that. There's also just like high drama, a lot of kind of over-the-top reactions to things, which I think a lot of people can really enjoy, but I like my books a little bit more quiet. So lots of good stuff about this story, but just wasn't quite my style for romance. I still think that it is so cool that Adriana Herrera came up with this excellent historical romance, and I do recommend it if that sounds interesting to you. So definitely check out Cynthia's review if you think that this might work for you. Okay, so that is everything that I read and DNF'd this week. If you guys have read any of these books, or if you're interested, or if you want to tell me what you've been reading this week, I would love to hear from you. Just leave me a comment down below.